So, have you ever believed something deep down, but you were just afraid to say it out loud? Today, we're going to dig into this really powerful essay by Mark Mountjoy that gets right to the heart of that dilemma, that gap, sometimes a painful one, between what we know is true and what we're willing to actually show the world.
So yeah, the piece is called The Courage a Conviction Requires, and it's part of the New Testament Life workshop series. We're going to break down the core argument, which kicks off with this wild story about a theological debate that takes a really unexpected turn. And it uses that story to explore a much, much bigger idea about what it means to live with integrity. This one sentence right here, it basically sets the stage for everything we're about to talk about. It's about a guy who puts on an absolute masterclass performance, but the whole thing is built on a lie. So let's unpack that story first. All right, let's get into it. The essay opens with this fascinating case study of what the author calls a mercenary debater, and it's the perfect illustration for the bigger point he's trying to make. Okay, so picture this, a YouTube debate. On one side, you've got a guy who's arguing for a view called preterism, basically the idea that biblical prophecies have already happened. He is sharp, he's precise, and he absolutely dismantles his futurist opponent who believes those prophecies are still to come. I mean, it's not even close. He's better prepared, his arguments are tighter, he wins hands down. But then, and this is where it gets crazy, after it's all over, the winner reveals that he doesn't actually believe a single word of what he just argued. He even says preterism isn't his identity. And worse, his whole tone kind of suggests he looks down on the people who genuinely hold the beliefs he just used to win. The author actually gives this a name. He calls it performance fraud. And look, this isn't the same as steel manning, arguing the best version of your opponent's case, to be fair. No, this is about faking it for personal gain and only admitting it was all an act after you've already won. And this is where it gets to a much deeper issue. It's not just breaking the rules of debate. The author says it's a moral failure. See, the debater used arguments that other people had developed, often at a huge personal cost to themselves, just to win a prize for himself, all while secretly thinking they were, kind of beneath him. It's a really profound kind of exploitation. So this story isn't just a story. It's the setup for a much bigger concept that the author calls the performance fracture. And this is where the tale of one debater starts to become a story that might just feel a little familiar to all of us. Now, this slide lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got the mercenary debater, right? He's all about personal gain, winning, looking good. But on the right, you have a totally different character, the covert believer. This is someone who has a real, honest conviction, but keeps it locked up because they need social safety and acceptance. But here's the thing. Even though their motives are completely different, they're both living with this fracture, this corrosive gap between who they are on the inside and what they perform on the outside. The author's point is that this gap does real damage over time. It's like this low-grade hum of dissonance in your life that just eats away at your sense of who you are. So, let's focus on that second person for a minute. Because honestly, this is the one that's probably way more relatable for most of us. The silent believer who's just caught in a really tough spot. You know this person. They've done the work, they've read the books, they've followed the logic, and they've landed on a conclusion that just doesn't fit in with their family, their friends, their community. They're genuinely convinced, but it's an inconvenient truth. Voicing it could be dangerous. And the reasons for staying silent are very, very real. We're not talking about abstract fears here. As the essay points out, people have lost their jobs over this stuff. Lifelong friendships have gone cold. People have been kicked out of communities. Families have been torn apart. The stakes are incredibly high. And that leads us to the absolute core question of the essay. When you use language you don't believe anymore as a kind of shelter to avoid all those bad things, what is that shelter actually costing you? It's not just about what you lose by speaking up, it's about what you lose by staying silent. It's like this slow tax on your integrity, where the person you show the world starts to feel like a hollowed out, carefully managed version of you. Okay, so what's the way out of this? The essay argues that it's not about pretending the costs aren't real, it's about finding the courage that a genuine conviction demands. And here is the central thesis of the whole thing. An idea only becomes a true conviction when we find the guts to actually live from it. As long as it just stays a private thought you keep to yourself, it's still kind of pending. It's waiting to become real in your life. I love this quote from the author. It completely reframes the problem. Being honest isn't just a cost to be paid. It's an investment in your own integrity that's actually worth it. As he says, the truth is worth the expense of being honest about it.
Now, it's really important to get this next part. This is not a call to just blow up your life for no reason. The author is super clear that the starting point isn't some big, dramatic, public confession. It's much quieter. It's simply to stop lying to yourself. It all starts with being honest on the inside. And you can see from his other work, this isn't just some one-off idea for him. This theme of squaring challenging truths with how we actually live is a huge part of his thinking about what it means to have an integrated life, both intellectually and spiritually. So how do we actually do this? How do we start closing that gap? To wrap things up, let's look at a few practical, concrete steps the author suggests in the workshop part of the essay. The plan is actually pretty simple. Step 1. Just admit the gap exists, to yourself. Be honest. Step 2. Find one safe person you trust and talk to them about it. This is huge because it takes an idea from just being in your head to being a voiced conviction. And step 3. Pick just one piece of that shelter language you've been using and just stop. Stop saying it. These are small, totally manageable steps.
And this image just says it all, doesn't it? You can have all the evidence, all the logic, all the arguments in the world, and that can get you right to the edge of the canyon. But it can't get you across. Crossing that bridge, from just agreeing with something to making it a real conviction you live by, that takes an act of courage. That's a decision.
And the essay leaves us with this final, powerful warning. That fracture we've been talking about, it isn't a stable, safe place to live. It's an active drain on you. The gap between knowing and saying has its own slow, accumulating cost. It costs you your integrity, your joy. It costs you the feeling that you are really, truly present in your own life. And so, to finish, we'll just turn that question back to you. Because even though this essay started in a theological world, the idea is universal, right? So, what gap might exist in your own life between what you know is true and what you're willing to say? And what do you think that gap might be costing you?